This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss all the news in the world of sports. My name is Ben.
And I'm Pauline.
Back here on a Monday. Good weekend, Pauline?
Yeah, it was good. I celebrated my friend's birthday yesterday, so we had a good time. I ate nachos, so I was happy.
Nachos are always great.
I'm in love with nachos. I love nachos.
I go to AM PM a lot for during the day on like Saturdays. Mm-hmm. And I always get corn dogs and nachos.
They have nachos there?
Yes. They have like the chips already there, and you just put like whatever you want on it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can work with that.
Yeah, it's always really good. So I always get that. I had a good weekend myself. Mm-hmm. Did work a little bit. Had a nice little day off yesterday. Played a lot of video games. Mm-hmm. I ordered some wrestling tickets over the weekend.
Oh,
so
fun.
I'm really excited. It's going to be on April 30th, but I've been thinking about it literally probably on and off maybe every single minute for the last 3 days since Friday. So, I mean, April 30th is basically 2 months away.
But it's okay.
But I could swear, like,
it'll go by fast.
I wish it was tomorrow.
It's going to go by fast. I went to the Reno Bighorns game on Friday.
There you go.
I watched them play against the Santa Cruz Warriors, so that was fun. My friend was playing, so I took my niece to go see that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, on Friday I covered a high school basketball game. Mm-hmm. It's the Sac Joaquin section. It was the quarterfinal matchup. The number 1 seed is Sheldon, and they played number 8, Granite Bay. Okay. And Sheldon won by like over 30. And then on Wednesday, I'm covering their game. They're playing West. Mm-hmm. They're from Tracy. They're the number 5 seed. That game's at UOP on Wednesday.
Oh, that should be fun.
So I'm covering that as well. And I think the championship's Saturday if they get there.
Okay.
And they'll probably go up against Wood Creek, who I believe his name is Jordan Brown.
And I have a little, not a little friend. He's a young man, but one of my little brother's friends plays for Wood Creek, so we've been following Wood Creek. I believe his name is
Jordan Brown, and he's a junior, but he's like within the top 10 in the nation.
Yeah,
like,
they're
ranked.
Doing really well. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a stud. So I'm hoping that will be the case, and I'll be able to cover that game and get a chance.
That'll be a lot of fun
because that'll be really interesting. But nevertheless, let's get away from our lives because they're not necessarily as important as some of the others.
Oh, Ben, your life's important to me.
Well, your life is important to me as well, but maybe not so much to these other guys because we're talking about sports. We're not talking about the Ben and Pauline podcast. So,
Gotcha.
Anyways, in the world of sports this weekend, the biggest event was, of course, yesterday, the inaugural race of the NASCAR season. Every year, the Daytona 500 gets won in kind of dramatic fashion. I feel like it's really good for the sport because NASCAR, in my eyes, really gets overlooked, and I'll say that for a few reasons.
Okay.
First off, Kurt Busch wins the race yesterday. He led, literally the only lap he led was the final lap, so that's all you got to do to win. Mm-hmm. Kind of a crazy finish because you had a lot of crashes, which took out, one crash took out, I think, 16 or 17 cars. You had a lot of guys down the wire run out of fuel. I believe 4 guys ran out of fuel, including Chase Elliott, who was on the pole and had been leading a lot of the race. So a lot of guys ran out of fuel, and Kurt Busch goes on to win the race. But I feel like NASCAR is really overlooked as being actually a physical sport because you just get the interpretation and the impression that all they do is really turn left.
And just
they're making a left-hand turn or whatever. But these guys are literally in a car for like 4 hours without any like water breaks or bathroom breaks or anything. The only really break they have is a pit stop when they're not on the gas, and that's a handful of seconds, like 10,
I was going to
11,
say, it's
12
not
seconds.
even that long.
So they literally have to be focused completely for that amount of time. And Daytona's a little different because it's such one of the biggest super speedways, so they're really just basically putting their foot to the floor the whole time and hitting the gas. But on some of these other ones where they're having to constantly brake and go in and out of the clutch and everything back and forth, it takes so much concentration, and it's really a true skill. So I give them a lot of credit. It's something I could never do.
Right, I was going to say...
So they're going like 200 miles in a car. I'd be scared for my life.
Yeah,
they
that alone.
get in car crashes all the time.
I know.
I mean, it's definitely a really scary thing. But I mean, and it has a little speculation and controversy here because you have to really rely a lot on your pit crew and everything because you're having to calculate fuel mileage. Like here, last few laps, 4 guys run out of gas.
And you run out of gas. That's pretty...
There's a lot that goes into NASCAR. It's more than just getting in a car and driving it. So I give them a lot of credit.
There's a lot of room for error, actually.
So Kurt Busch, he wins the Daytona 500. So congrats to him. Talk about some of the other things in sports real quick. I want to keep coming back to this DeMarcus Cousins Sacramento Kings blow up here.
Right.
So last night, the Pelicans played the Thunder. Russell Westbrook gets a lot of the highlights here. He recorded his 29th triple-double of the season. He had 41 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists. It's his 7th triple-double in his career where he's had at least 40 points. Played extremely well.
Yes.
14 of 29 from the floor. He only shot 2 of 8 from 3, but 11 of 12 from the free throw line. And he almost had a quadruple-double because he had 9 turnovers, which I guess is typical Russ fashion. So the Thunder get the win 118-110. But look on the other side of the spectrum here. With the Pelicans, you have Cousins and Anthony Davis.
Yes.
So Cousins puts up 31 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. Anthony Davis puts up 38 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Literally just like the first game in Denver, nobody except Cousins and Davis does anything.
Well, yeah.
They had one other player in double figures, and that was Etuan Moore with 10 points.
That's it.
Nobody.
Yeah,
Cousins,
that's it. Literally.
Cousins, he gets his first technical foul as a member of the Pelicans.
Yep.
It's his 18th of the season. He'll be suspended for the next game. He got it 32 seconds into the game as he had a little scuffle with Steven Adams. They both got technical fouls. I'm sure Steven Adams, being the player he is, maybe tried to rile up Cousins a little bit because...
You know, he likes
Adams
pushing buttons.
He's not a dirty player, but I think you put it right. He likes to push buttons.
He knows your triggers, and he'll go for it.
So, you have the Thunder beating the Pelicans, and the Pelicans are winless now in the Cousins and Anthony Davis era.
Yeah.
And really, it's only them two. Like I said, only one other guy.
Yeah, they almost had 70 points just themselves alone.
Yes, they finished with 69. And the other guy at double figures was Etuan Moore with 10.
And
so
that's not going to win you games, though.
No.
Even if Anthony and DeMarcus are putting up numbers the way that they are. So, because, it's they're doing what we expected and hoped for that they were going to do together. But nobody else is contributing. So you're not going to win games. Even if you do get 110 points, you're not going to win games with only 2 people doing anything. No supporting cast whatsoever.
So the Pelicans definitely need to add some more players, and hopefully they can get things going because they have a really rare commodity in the NBA now with 2 really solid big men. The best 2 in the league in my eyes.
Yeah.
So it'll take some time to get used to, some adjusting, and I knew that would happen. It's not like they were just step in overnight and be a dominant team. So hopefully the Pelicans get in the right direction. But where I'm going with this whole story is something that Kings GM Vlade Divac said this weekend.
Right.
Basically summing up the Cousins trade. Because it's been a week now. We've had both sides kind of go back and forth.
Have some games.
Divac said what he said on Monday, saying that they were trying to change the character. He maybe had a better offer 2 days ago. And then Cousins came out and said it was a coward move. He doesn't really care what Divac and Vivek Ranadive, who's the owner, have to say. They
Rightfully so.
Probably give him a coward answer, which is correct. I mean, these guys went to his house a couple weeks before the trade and say, we're not going to trade you. And then a couple weeks later, it's
and
like,
don't even give you a courtesy call. Like, that's the thing. They couldn't send him a text.
They tell him while he's getting
on the
surrounded
spot,
by reporters in the All-Star game.
Yeah,
so
that wasn't cool.
I get it. It was maybe a little coward shot, but... So now Divac is basically summing this up with an interview he did this weekend with Eileen Voisin of the Sac Bee. So the Sacramento Bee's Eileen Voisin talked to Vlade Divac, and this is what he said. He said, quote, they supported DeMarcus, and I like DeMarcus a lot, but I believe we're going to be in a better position in 2 years. I want to hear again from these same people in 2 years. If I'm right, then great. If I'm wrong, and this is what really stood out to me.
Yes.
I'll step down as the general manager. But if I go down, I'm going down my way. So Divac came out, and he said, if we're not in a better position 2 years from now, I will resign as GM of the Kings.
Okay, but my question is good compared to what? So better position as in we're still losing games, but everybody's happy. Better position as in, we secure that 8th seed. Better position as in we're the 7th seed, 6th seed. Better position that we're actual contenders. Like, I don't get compared to what. So what's his barometer?
I thought the same thing.
On better than where we are today.
I thought the same thing. I thought number one is definitely a bold statement. But
yeah.
as far as better position is a really subjective term, and it's
really broad.
It's not really clearly defined here, because I thought the same thing you could. Technically, you're fighting for the 8th seed right now.
Right.
So in a better position, do you mean, like you said, fighting for the 7th or the 6th? Or do you talk about record? Or do you talk about maybe the chemistry and the morale of the team? It's really, really subjective. So as far as what you define better position as is kind of left in the air.
Right.
But I think, for me, the biggest thing here is only 2 years. Because given the Kings' past 12 years, they've been a train wreck and a mess of an organization. Oh. And Divac's been there a couple of years now. And Ronnie Diva's been there 4 years now. Mm-hmm. And it honestly has gotten worse in those last 4 years than it was in the previous 8 in my eyes. I look as early back as last year.
Okay.
They had George Karl, and that obviously did not work out. We all know that. And everyone at the end of the season knew that Karl was basically going to be fired as soon as that last game was over, and he did literally, I think it was either 2 days later or the day after the last game. But I remember this story came out, and it was near the end of the season that general management and ownership flew DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay basically home for the last game of the season, which was on the road, to say, we're not going to play you. There's really no point in playing you last game of the season. Take a chance of you getting injured for next year. There's no point doing it. So they took the two, I guess you say, stars off the team to make sure off the plane to make sure they would not play for the last game. But the management didn't even tell George Karl, who's the coach. George Karl's on the team plane.
No
he's
communication.
Like, hey, where's DeMarcus and Rudy? And it's like, oh, they didn't tell you? Like,
they're not coming.
They're not playing. And it's like,
so your whole game plan is screwed.
It's like, I realize you're about to fire the guy, but can you at least tell him that he's not going to have his best 2 players on the floor that night? Like, so I mean, that's just one example. I think in 2 years, I don't know how it's going to get better in 2 years. I'd say maybe like 4.
Everything is 3 to 4 in Sacramento.
Yeah, so
3 to 4.
To come up with 2 years was definitely.
He knew that nobody wanted to hear 3 years. He knew.
And with the Kings, I think there's one thing that's consistent about the Kings. It's that they are inconsistent. Because you look at the Kings' first game on Thursday without Cousins. Mm-hmm. They played Detroit, who was in the 8th seed at the time, and they were battling for the 8th seed. And they played extremely well. Willie Cauley-Stein had his best game as a pro. Buddy Hield looked good in his first appearance. Tyreek looked good in his first appearance back. And then 2 days later, they play the Charlotte Hornets, and they look absolutely terrible.
Yes.
So there's only one thing consistent about the Kings, and that's that they are inconsistent. So where the things go for the next couple of years, I have no idea, but I don't see how they can be in a better position.
I don't know what that better position is.
And then
I need a follow-up question.
And then you have Divac. Does he stick to his word? He says, I'm going to go down. He says, if I go down, I'm not throwing shots.
No, I see what you're saying. I didn't even think of that.
But he says, if I go down, I'm going down my way. What exactly does that mean? You basically went
and are you taking us all with you? Or?
You basically said you went out there and you're saying, we're going to be better in 2 years or I'm leaving. But are you going to stick to that? Because you're saying you're going down my way. So that makes it seam like to me you're going down on your time, not anyone else's time.
Yes.
So as far as what that entails, I'm kind of
I'm interested to see fast forward to 2 years.
Exactly. But we'll have to wait and see. I see both franchises getting off to rocky starts since the trade.
Definitely.
But obviously New Orleans is in a much better position than Sacramento right now. And I don't know. I just thought those comments were kind of like
Very
eye-opening
bold.
from Divac.
Very bold.
We'll take our first break of the show. After the break, we're going to stick with the basketball talk. The Cavaliers might just become the best and
Stacked
biggest
team.
winners of the NBA trade deadline.
Yes.
And they didn't even make a trade. We'll talk about that and more after the break at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Last night, the Clippers with a huge win over the Hornets, 124-121. I guess not a huge win, but a big win for the team, and just a lot of points. Blake Griffin had a huge night, 43 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. DeAndre Jordan shot 9 of 10 from the floor. He had 20 points and 19 rebounds. Chris Paul is back. It's his second game back. He played on Friday against San Antonio. He didn't shoot well. He only shot 4 of 18, but he had 15 points and 17 assists with 0 turnovers. So literally a 17-0 assist-to-turnover ratio. On the Hornets side, Kemba Walker had 34 points. Nicholas Batum had 31 points. Really just a lot of points scored. I remember there was a game on Saturday. The Houston Rockets. I forget who they played. The game was like 143-130. I think they played Minnesota.
That's so many points.
But, I mean, that's Houston for you. Like, everyone is really saying that the Rockets now, with the addition of Lou Williams, because that seems like it'll be a really good trade. His first game there, he scored 27. I think they're probably I still think San Antonio is probably the biggest challenge to Golden State.
Sure.
But a lot of people want to say Houston because they simply can just score.
Put up so many
just
points.
as well as Golden State can. I mean, in that game on Saturday, I want to say it was Minnesota. I'm going to look it up. They attempted 58 three-pointers. Like, what? 58? Yeah, here it is. So, the Rockets 142, the Minnesota Timberwolves 130. The Rockets from the floor, from the three-point line, they were 22 of 58 from three.
58 three-pointer.
Yeah. So, Ryan Anderson attempted
attempts.
13, James Harden attempted 11, Eric Gordon attempted 10. I mean, they were just literally chucking them up like it was nobody's business. Every starter scored at least 15 points. They had 8 players in double figures. I mean, just absolutely crazy how many points that the Rockets can score. They can score with the bunches. But anyways, the Clippers putting up quite a few points last night as well. All right, so let's talk about a couple stories here in the NBA. So first off, Brandon Jennings has been waived by the Knicks. So the Knicks not making any moves at the trade deadline. Carmelo Anthony's kind of confused as to why. But they are making some moves after because they have released Brandon Jennings. The point guard's been averaging 8 points and about 5 assists in 24 minutes this season. So not terrible.
Right.
Backup role behind Derrick Rose.
Right.
I'm not exactly sure where he might go. He's played for the Bucks, the Pistons, and the Magic in his career. And he played really well with the Bucks when he was drafted out of... from Europe. He was originally going to go to Arizona, then he moved to Europe to skip out on college. But so maybe he'll go on somewhere. He's not a bad player. Maybe he'll go with a contender. Not really sure. There's no reports as to where he's going to go.
Where he'll go next.
Maybe a little too early. But anyways, one guy who did get waived and another guy who is probably going to get bought out by the 76ers after their trade on Thursday is Andrew Bogut and Deron Williams.
Yes.
So Anthony and I talked about it a little bit on Friday, Pauline, so I'll maybe just get your perspective on it mainly. But now reports are that Bogut is for sure getting bought out by the Sixers because he simply doesn't want to be there, and I can understand that. He's a guy who's in a contract year, guy who's got a lot of money in his career, former number 1 overall pick out of Utah by Milwaukee, and he wants to win more rings. He won 1 with Golden State. It didn't work out last year. He got injured. Now he's most likely going to sign with the Cavs. Like, he has come out and said, I want to play for Cleveland. And likewise with Deron Williams, who got waived by the Mavericks on Thursday. So the Cavaliers might be the biggest winners of the trade deadline, and they literally did not make a trade.
Didn't have to do anything.
Picking up
everybody's just flocking.
They're picking up the free agents or free agents to be of Deron Williams and Andrew Bogut. Obviously, this makes the Cavs better. LeBron James has been complaining about wanting a playmaker and a backup point guard. It doesn't get any better than Deron Williams. He's a former All-Star, a guy who was on the Olympics. He's 32 years old. He's still averaging about 13 points and 6 assists, which is not terrible.
No, that's a good backup.
And I'm sure they can even maybe do some things with he and Kyrie on the floor at the same time, depending on how J.R. Smith comes back from injuries, and Kyle Korver, who's been playing really well, doing really good in his basically stand at the three-point line and shoot the ball role. So this makes the Cavs obviously a lot better. Does it give them that added oomph to get over Golden State right now, though?
I see what you're saying.
Because they're already the favorites in the East.
Right.
Other teams are maybe challenging, like Boston,
because if they can seamlessly like slide in there, Williams and Bogut, because they have the experience, like you were saying, they have the experience even like in the Olympics and things like that. They've had the experience in the playoffs. So I think the Cavs are going to win it again.
You really do?
Yeah, because I don't know if, and especially if they acquire these two guys, because now you're adding also that experience factor to the Cavaliers, and I always believe that experience, even if the younger team is more talented, perhaps that experience tends to kick in.
I want to say yes. I agree with you. I took the Warriors in 7 last year in the finals, and I literally can never count out LeBron James because he just seems to really flip that switch when he needs it most. It's like he kind of just goes through the motions, and then it's like, oh, we're down 3-1 or we're down 2-1. I'm going to have like one of those 40-point,
every night
rebounds and like 8 assist games, and he literally did that. Games 5, 6, and 7 last year.
Right.
And I'm sure there was some help. Draymond was suspended for Game 5. Bogut, who ironically is going to be joining the team that he lost to in the finals, was out with injury. So I get it. Maybe there was a little extra help there, but I just cannot count out LeBron James. But the Golden State Warriors this year are just a different animal to me. Everyone's talking about like, oh, Steph has maybe like lost a little bit of his lackluster, and it's like, well, you brought in the second best player in the league. Look what happened when LeBron went to Miami. Everyone's like, oh, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh are kind of like,
but it's
what happened to them?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do you expect when you bring in the best player in the world?
Yes.
And this instance, second best player in the world. It's like you bring in another huge dog into the yard. You can't expect that same dog who was roaming it to eat like he was before.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like Steph has lost a step or anything. If anything, I think this makes Steph Curry better because he's not the only guy. Well, he never was the only guy, but he's not the guy that everyone's looking at saying, oh, he's the one who has to
carry.
Play.
Right.
He's the one who's going to do this. He can maybe take a step back.
Right, or if he has an off game, it's not as detrimental as it used to be. Exactly.
Right, so I don't want to bet against LeBron because simply you can't bet against the guy.
No, you cannot.
But I think the Warriors this year are just a different kind of animal. I think Durant adds so much length at 6'10". I mean, the guy's just a twig, and he can block everything when he gets down there, and it'll be interesting to see. I think this makes the Cavaliers a lot better, and I think it's a good point in the season because these guys will be in there long enough to get adjusted to the team. They're already familiar with each other because they were on the same team this year with the Dallas Mavericks. So I guess it's a good idea, and it makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense, definitely.
Real quick before the break, I want to stick with basketball, and then we'll talk some football after the break. But anyways, real quick. So I was watching the UCLA and Arizona game in college basketball on Saturday. Number 4, Arizona. Number 5, UCLA.
Yep, I watched that.
UCLA came out on top and won that game. Kind of a back-and-forth game. Arizona made a run to really lead at halftime, and it seemed like they had all the momentum. And in the second half, it was really the other way around. UCLA kind of came out and dominated. Bryce Alford had a fantastic game. But we'll talk about Lonzo Ball because, well, I mean, why not? He's probably the biggest name in college basketball this year. And, of course, he has the brothers, LiAngelo and LaMelo, and his dad, LaVar Ball, who literally is not afraid to say anything that's on his mind. Well, he has struck again. So he was talking with an Arizona radio station, and I'm not going to quote what he said, but he basically implied that if he had a choice, he would want Lonzo to play for the Lakers. And there's a chance that might happen.
Right.
I mean, Lonzo's going to probably be, at worst, the third pick. I'd probably take him number 1, possibly number 2. I mean, Markelle Fultz from Washington is still there, and he's going to be a fantastic NBA player himself. But I'd probably take Lonzo number 1. So LaVar Ball came out and said that if he had a choice, he would love Lonzo to be a Laker.
Sure.
They're from Chino Hills, which is in Southern California.
Sure.
So it makes a lot of sense. Magic Johnson, the greatest point guard of all time in my eyes, is the president of the team, so he can learn a lot from Magic. So it makes a whole lot of sense. But he basically came out and said that Lonzo wants to be a Laker, and he wants Lonzo to be a Laker. So he's kind of... I mean, I'm not going to say this way, but there's some guys that should probably just not say anything, and I think LaVar Ball is probably one of them. And this has happened before.
I don't think you're the only person that thinks that. I've seen, just go on social media.
This has happened before. I mean, Eli Manning did not want to play for the Chargers, and he got a trade on draft day to play for the Giants. John Elway said he would stay in college if the Baltimore Colts at the time were going to draft him, and that was the case, and he did stay in Stanford, and he obviously goes on to win 2 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos, and obviously is now in the front office and has a Super Bowl the last 2 years with them. So it's happened before, but I mean, some guys should just literally say nothing, because I think LaVar Ball is the best example. He's going out and saying all 3 of his sons are going to be one and done even before they even get to college, and Lonzo's going to be better than Steph Curry.
I mean, I get the whole confidence, I get it. And your dad should be your biggest fan and your biggest cheerleader. I support that. The whole, my son is the greatest, or my kid is the greatest. And, he's put in a lot of effort in his sons and all of that. I get that. But then on the flip side, I'm just that's a lot of pressure.
Exactly. And
what if I'm not a one and done? What if, I don't know, injury? Which I hope that never happens to any athlete or any person to suffer an unforeseen circumstance that's going to make you have to switch gears in your career no matter what it is. But when it comes to athletes and it comes to your body, there's so many things, because you don't necessarily have to get hurt in game or in practice, just in your everyday life. You know what I mean?
We've seen freak incidents where people fall downstairs or just
whatever. Exactly. Things can happen, which I'm not saying that they will, and I definitely, like I said, hope that it doesn't. But to say my kids are all going to be one and done, and they're all going to be, the son is going to be a Laker, one, you're limiting yourself.
Exactly. The Boston Celtics might very well have the number 1 pick in the NBA this season. And you could go to literally the Lakers' biggest rival. Yeah, no, that.
Or, I don't know, sometimes there's been times, I'm trying to think of the young man's name. He was a football player, but a couple years ago, I'll think of it. But he was projected to get picked up, if not 1, high, top 3, and didn't end up going for, quite some time late into the draft, and it was a really big deal. And so you don't know. You talking all this jibber jabber might jeopardize what is the final result. Because your son is great. No, we'll give him that. But this is a deep draft. There's a lot of other players to look at and to consider as well. And so you never know. I don't know. I just think sometimes we can't talk too much. You don't want to jinx yourself, I guess you could say.
And I watched Chino Hills play on Friday.
Right.
It's playoff time in high school basketball.
It's fun. I love playoff high school basketball.
I'm actually very into the whole recruiting scene with college football and college basketball. But of course, that doesn't really get any limelight on media and everything.
Sure.
So we don't talk about it. But I'm really into that. I look at the recruiting stuff all the time. I try to watch as many high school basketball, especially basketball. I'm really entertained by that. So I watched Chino Hills. They played Mater Dei on Friday. Mater Dei is, I guess you can say, basically consistently the best team in California when it comes to high school.
Yeah, they're definitely a powerhouse.
Men
yeah.
and women.
Yes, I was going to say men and women.
But both Mater Dei and Chino Hills, which is of course where the Ball brothers go and went, they're like both top 5 in the nation. They've only lost one game. Mater Dei only lost one game, and it was to Chino Hills earlier in the season. So they were playing them in the semifinal of basically the section championships down there. And I watched the game on like a tape delay because I was gone during when it was actually on.
Sure.
And I'm not going to like throw shots at anyone, but I was not impressed with the Ball brothers at all. Especially LiAngelo, who's a senior right now. I mean, he's like a 3-star recruit. He's already going to UCLA. Of course, all 3 of them are going there. But for LaVar Ball to say, oh, he's one and done, like I don't see any way LiAngelo Ball is going to be one and done, period. Like, he was not impressive to me. LaMelo Ball, of course, I'm not the biggest fan of him. You and Anthony know that, and people who listen to the show consistently know that. But, I mean, he was just, I think he shot like 5 of 20 from 3. So,
I see what you're saying.
I mean, just throwing up, and there were some shots where it's like, what are you doing? Like,
it's sometimes,
I mean, it's like they're uncoachable. And it's like you have to kind of work that out.
Okay.
Like, Chino Hills as a team, not bad. I mean, of
right,
course, the
sure,
Ball brothers
sure.
get a lot of talk, but there's some other guys, I don't know any names, I apologize, but on the team that look like they're like good enough basketball players to maybe play at the next level.
Right,
But
okay.
I mean, it's like, of course, the Ball brothers get all the
attention,
speculation and attention, and I'm kind of like, what are you doing? Like, it's like they're uncoachable. It's like they have free reign to do whatever they want.
Because they're all
that's
gassed
not going
up.
to work at the next level. Like,
right.
You have to maybe get that out of your system now.
I see what you're
That's
saying.
where I see a difference with Lonzo, because he was never really that way in college or in high school. I remember watching last year. Chino Hills was the national champ.
Yeah.
He didn't even lose a game. So he wasn't even like that in high school. And he's transitioned obviously well in the college game. And it's like, you guys need to learn to get that out of your system now. Because there's no way that you're going to be able to do that at UCLA. Like, Steve Alford's not going to take that. You know what I mean? So, anyways, we'll take our last break of the show. After the break, as I mentioned, we'll talk some NFL news. The New York Jets are moving on without their longtime center. The Chicago Bears reportedly are not going to franchise their star wide receiver. And 49ers general manager John Lynch has come out and said he's willing to trade the number 2 pick in the 2017 NFL Draft coming up at the end of April. We'll talk about that right after the break at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. As we mentioned, the New York Jets are moving on without longtime center Nick Mangold. The franchise released the longest tenured player in franchise history over the weekend after another 5-11 season. This is the nature of the business.
Yeah,
he's
it is a
getting
business.
old, and quite honestly, he's on a high salary. So this is what he put on Twitter. He said, as it will be announced by the team shortly, my time as New York Jet has come to an end. While this is a sad day to leave so many great coaches, teammates, and executives, I look forward to seeing what the future holds for me. My family and I will always be grateful to Mr. Johnson and the entire organization for making me a Jet. I truly want to thank the fans for their amazing support over the past 11 years. It means a lot to see all the number 74 jerseys, which, quite honestly, I would never get a jersey of an offensive lineman, point blank, period.
Yes.
But for a lot of people to get 74 jerseys, probably because he's the only player on the Jets that you might want to have on your team, maybe Brandon Marshall. But so to see a lot of the 74 jerseys in the crowd every Sunday, thank you for all fantastic 11 years. That's what Mangold put on Twitter. So he's of course been a great player, but I mean he's 33, and he's just
and 11 years in the NFL is a long time.
Exactly, especially for a lineman, because these are the guys that are getting hit literally
by
every
trucks.
Single play.
Yes.
Literally every play.
By trucks.
And Mangold, he has the ball in his hands every single play. Last season, he missed 8 games with a really bad ankle injury. It almost required surgery. He's a $9 million cap hit. He was about to make $6 million guaranteed if he was on the roster come March 9th. This is the NFL, man. I mean, it happens. Like, no disrespect. You're a legendary player. You're probably going to go into Jets Ring of Honor eventually.
Sure.
But I expect the same thing to happen with Darrelle Revis. And quite honestly, unless the Vikings and Adrian Peterson work out a restructure of their contract, I think it's going to happen too. Because quite simply, in the NFL now with the salary cap and how much money it hits on you, aging players just don't really work out anymore. It happens every year.
Right.
I mean, Matt Forte got released by the Bears last year. Then he ironically went to the Jets, who we're talking about. It happens all the time. And quite honestly, injuries happen all the time in the NFL. The contracts aren't guaranteed, so you can dump guys whenever you really want to.
True. Yeah,
and
that's
it's a
the thing, especially with the NFL. You never really know.
It's a business, and this is what happened with Mangold. So as far as where he might go, he's 33. He probably has a few years left if he can stay healthy. I'm sure he'll go somewhere. I mean, Jeff Saturday happened. That same thing happened with the Colts, and he went to the Packers for 1 year and then retired. So Nick Mangold will go somewhere. Talking about the Bears a little bit, we're going to go back to them. They are reportedly unlikely to franchise tag wide receiver Alshon Jeffery for a second consecutive season. He got franchised last year. He missed some games with injury and suspension for PEDs. He's been a good player in his career. One of those guys just cannot stay healthy. If he was under the franchise tag this year, he'd be making about $15 million, which is quite a lot. So if he does not become franchised, that will make him more than likely a free agent.
Yes.
As far as the Bears planning on maybe going towards him and targeting him, that's still left in the air. I think a lot of things are determined contract-wise. I know reports a while back said he might be looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. They, of course, have a lot of needs at wide receiver. Really, all they really have is Jordan Matthews in my eyes, who's an okay receiver, but not at the level of Alshon Jeffery. So the Bears are definitely in a rebuilding mode. So getting rid of Jeffrey would make a lot of sense. Just can't stay healthy. Same thing kind of with Kevin White, who they've had for 2 years now, but hasn't made an impact in the NFL because of injuries as well. They drafted him really high. I think he was number 8 overall coming out of West Virginia a couple of years back. But they drafted him in their first round, and he just has not made an impact as well. So
that's
if
tough.
they get rid of Jeffrey, they'll have to rely a lot on Kevin White. Maybe make up some draft picks early in the draft upcoming with the wide receiver position in need, because Jeffrey is reportedly not going to get franchised, and that will make him a free agent, let him go anywhere. I don't know why he'd want to stay in Chicago, unless maybe they give him more money, but I don't see anyone really breaking the bank for Alshon Jeffery, given his injury issues. And I mean, last year he even missed some time with suspension because of PEDs.
There's a little,
I don't know.
A little bit risky.
One team that definitely needs a wide receiver, I don't think they'll go after Alshon Jeffery, but I think this team, quite honestly, and it's your team, Pauline, I'm sorry, they probably have the worst wide receiver corps in the whole NFL, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, bringing in first-time GM John Lynch into the front office. Well, he came out this weekend, and he said that literally anything is on the table, because he said, quote, "We could stay pat right there and find a fabulous player, a game-changing player at the number 2 position in the draft."
Right.
Obviously, the Browns, I'd say, unless there's some sort of weird instance that happens, they'll take Myles Garrett, the pass rusher from Texas A&M. So they'll have their pick of any player in the draft except for Myles Garrett. So he said we could stay pat there and find a fabulous player and a game-changing player. He said, or we could have a lot of flexibility to do other things if we choose to be bold. There are going to be people that covet the pick we have.
Yep.
So there's going to be some people that maybe want to move up. The Niners were, of course, 2-14 last season. They only beat one team, which was the I keep saying St. Louis. The Los Angeles Rams, who they defeated twice. Pauline, for me, if I was the Niners, you have the number 2 pick, of course. Do you make a trade? Well, I guess it really depends on what you get back. This has been kind of the motto the last few years. The Browns traded number 2 to Washington to get RG3. The Browns traded number 2 literally a couple years later to Philly so the Eagles could get Carson Wentz last year. They're getting a lot in return. So what the Niners get in return, maybe I'll make a decision and maybe I want to do it. But for San Francisco, you have number 2 pick. You could obviously go quarterback.
Sure.
Colin Kaepernick's going to test the free agent market. He'll probably get something, maybe a backup role. I don't see him starting anywhere. But maybe he decides to leave. You don't want Blaine Gabbert anymore. Do you draft a quarterback number 2? Maybe you can trade back a little bit, maybe into the teens. Maybe something happens where a quarterback falls. Or maybe you're a little big on a guy like maybe Deshaun Kaiser, who's not going to go as high as maybe Mitch Trubisky or Deshaun Watson. Maybe you're big on him. You can deal with him. Or you maybe just bring in a veteran QB for a couple of years and get that bridge quarterback. Maybe a guy like Mike Glennon.
I want the bridge.
Reports are maybe Matt Schaub, since Kyle Shanahan's coming over, who he has a relationship with. So if you were the Niners at number 2, what would you do?
I need a veteran quarterback.
So you trade back to maybe acquire some more draft picks, because this team, quite honestly, probably has one of the worst rosters in the league. I can't, and I'm not throwing shots at the Niners. I've said this multiple times.
Right. No.
I don't think there's one player on the Niners team that I would want on my team.
Right.
Maybe Carlos Hyde, although he's had injury issues. Maybe Joe Staley at the left tackle position, although he's getting kind of older. I don't think there's one player on that team I'd want on my team. So quite simply, moving back and just acquiring more and more players, I think, is honestly the better move here. You can't expect to change things in 1 year.
Exactly.
Jim Harbaugh did that, and he worked some sort of magic. I don't know what he had going in that pot of gold there in San Francisco, but it all worked out. And Alex Smith was not a terrible quarterback. He's a lot better than what the Niners have now. So I would maybe trade back a little bit. You're going to acquire a ton of more draft picks if you trade the number 2 pick.
Right.
And just try and get better, because you need a lot. You need everything, really.
Get as many pieces as we can.
So you're saying you do the same thing?
Yep. No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I was John Lynch, I'd definitely entertain the option. He's already thrown it out there, so I'm sure a lot of teams will be calling him as the draft gets closer. We're about a couple of months away now from that draft in late April in Philadelphia. But I'd definitely make at least every effort I could to trade that pick, because what you're going to get back is obviously really, really high. Whoever's trading up to number 2 is doing it to draft a quarterback. So I would do it and try to acquire what I could. Anyways, that's going to end the show for today. Pauline and I are signing off here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. We'd like to thank you for listening. Pauline will be in the studio tomorrow recording, and then I'll be back on Wednesday with Anthony. So once again, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.